At grandmother's will reading, my cousins took all the jewelry, leaving me with her boring old diary. They laughed, saying, "Perfect for the bookworm." The lawyer's office felt cold as Rachel grabbed grandma's pearl necklace. "I call this one," she announced, fastening it around her neck. "It'll look amazing at the club this weekend." Marcus snatched the gold watches before anyone could protest. "Dad would have wanted me to have these," he said, even though he hadn't spoken to grandma in 2 years. My cousin Jen took the ruby ring and diamond earrings, stuffing them into her designer purse. "These will look perfect with my Vera Wang," she said, already planning her Instagram post. The lawyer, Mr. Chen, cleared his throat uncomfortably. "There is one more item." He pulled out a worn leather diary, the cover cracked with age. "Mrs. Kowalski specifically requested this go to Maya." Jen actually snorted. "A diary? That's perfect." She looked at me with fake sympathy. "Perfect for someone who never leaves her apartment anyway. While we get actual valuables, Maya gets bedtime stories," Marcus added, examining his watches. Rachel checked her reflection in a compact mirror. "I mean, at least it matches her personality. Boring and old." They all laughed. Mr. Chen looked like he wanted to say something, but stayed quiet. I'd spent every Tuesday afternoon with grandma for the past 3 years. We'd bake together, watch old movies, talk for hours. My cousins visited exactly twice a year. Christmas, where they'd show up late and leave early, and her birthday, where they'd ask pointed questions about health insurance and inheritance. But apparently those Tuesdays meant nothing compared to shared DNA. I took a diary with shaking hands and walked out while they argued over who deserved the brooch. The 2-hour drive home was a blur of tears and anger. That night, I sat in my reading chair with chamomile tea in grandma's favorite mug, the one with hand-painted violets that my cousins had called garage sale trash. I untied the faded ribbon around the diary. As I opened it, 3 pieces of paper fell out. Bank documents. Swiss bank documents with account numbers and codes I didn't understand. My heart started pounding as I read grandma's note on the first page. "My dearest Maya, you sat with me when I was lonely. You listened when I talked about Papa's escape from Warsaw in 1939. You asked questions. You cared about the stories, not the inheritance. Do you remember what I told you about Papa?" I did. Grandma's father, Samuel, had been a master jeweler in Poland. She told me how he'd spent 3 weeks in 1939 sewing diamonds into coat linings, hiding them in hollowed-out book spines, even crushing smaller ones into the hems of dresses. Anything to save something before the Nazis came. The diary entry continued. "Papa made it to Switzerland with Mama and me. We were the lucky ones. He never sold those diamonds. He said they were cursed, bought with too much fear, carried with too much loss. But he couldn't throw them away either. They represented everyone we left behind." I turned the page, my hands trembling. "So Papa deposited them in Zurich. Just let them sit there. When the time is right," he'd say, "someone will know what to do with them." He died in 1962. Never touching that account. I couldn't either. The weight was too heavy. But then you came along asking about Papa's stories, crying over people you never met, understanding that some inheritances carry responsibility, not just value. The next pages contained more account details, handwritten passwords, and a phone number for a bank in Zurich. At the bottom, "Call them. They're expecting you." 3 days later, I sat in a pristine office overlooking the Alps. The bank manager, Mr. Bachman, was maybe 60 with wireframe glasses. He reviewed the documents I'd brought, checked grandma's death certificate, verified my passport. Then his hands started shaking slightly as he pulled up the account. "Miss Bennett," he said slowly in accented English, "this account has been dormant since 1947. That's 76 years of compound interest on a very substantial initial deposit." He turned his computer screen toward me. I stared at the number, unable to process what I was seeing. "The current balance is 43.7 million Swiss francs." He paused. "Approximately 48 million US dollars. The room tilted. I gripped the armrests of my chair. "There's also a safety deposit box your grandmother maintained. She paid the fees through 2075. He slid a key across his desk. She was very thorough. The safety deposit box contained photographs. Papa in his Warsaw jewelry shop, looking young and proud. Pictures of the family they'd left behind. Letters from survivors thanking Papa for money he'd quietly sent them after the war. And at the bottom, a final letter from Grandma. Maya, let them have their jewelry. Those pearls Rachel took, I bought them at Macy's in 1985 for $200. The gold watches Marcus grabbed, gold-plated, worth maybe $300 total. The ruby ring, glass, and cubic zirconia. I had the real pieces sold decades ago. But you, who saw value in an old woman's stories, who understood that the greatest treasures are the ones that teach us something, you get the real inheritance. Not just money, but the weight of remembering. Use it wisely. Make Papa proud." I sat in that bank vault and cried for an hour.